Hello, folks. Welcome back to part two of Understanding Geopolitics. Well, before I get started, you're not going to believe this. I made a faux pas on the last one, and I'm going to make a clarification here. I said that a certain president, who I called Donald Trump, made an announcement after 9/11 that we were going to go into a war and it was going to be a multi-generational war. Well, you guys probably know that he wasn't even around at the time. It wasn't Trump. It was who? It was Bush. It was the Bush family that I think by now you probably know are globalists who wanted to create a war that would endure forever and ever and drive America into debt. So I don't want to put that on Donald Trump. He didn't do that. It was Bush. So let's go on and now we'll get in. Oh, you know what? For those who didn't see yesterday, I have an interesting and powerful thing to tell you. For those of you women out there who have a baby, they say it's a really hard birth if you don't get the baby out in an hour or two and you go 24 hours or 48 hours. Well, I'm about to birth something, and you don't think of that as a man birthing something, but I'm birthing this. And it's taken me 3 years to get this puppy dog out. So finally, this is the proof copy. And all I got to do is just go through it, check it out one last time. And probably by the beginning of next week, we'll have an absolutely solid date. It'll be loaded up on Amazon, and you'll be able to go and buy it. So those of you who've been waiting, then you don't have to wait too much longer. So with that, that's my announcement for today and my correction for my tongue tie. And now let's go on down, and we're going to go to a clip. If you bring the clip up, that's going to set the stage for today. Now, those who followed me yesterday, we're repeating this, but I can't always say, that you're watching both segments. So this sets the stage for this presentation for today. Let's roll that clip if you would, please.
The cameras were rolling, the chamber was packed, and what happened next will go down as the most brutal political destruction ever broadcast live to millions. Ursula von der Leyen walked into that parliament chamber expecting another routine session. What she got instead was a public execution so vicious, so coordinated, so absolutely devastating that within hours, entire nations erupted in protest. The streets of Brussels exploded, Berlin descended into chaos, Paris burned with rage, and the message from the people was deafening and crystal clear. She must go now, but here is what they are not telling you. This is not just about one woman's career ending in flames. This is the beginning of the end for the entire European Union as we know it. The dominoes are falling faster than anyone predicted. The anger is real, the economic collapse is accelerating, and the clock is ticking down to zero. What you are about to witness is the real-time disintegration of a superpower that took decades to build.
There you go, folks. What does God say? He can raise a nation or a leader in a day and take it down. And as we talked about yesterday, every major superpower in the world is on basically life support. We're all basically broke. We're at a point where the house of cards has to fall. And so we're going to be focusing almost exclusively in this segment on Europe and why and how Europe is going to fall, and the house of cards that they have colluded. They've been playing poker and they've been cheating, believe it or not. And we're going to basically expose what's been going on. So let's go to this first slide, which is a repeat, because I always like to come and basically get you situated from where we started off yesterday. And what we're saying is understanding the geopolitics means you need to understand that there's not a sovereign nation out there, that every nation is puppeted by the global financial elite, money elite, who control the world, who use that money to buy all the spheres of influence and use it to enslave humanity. And this is what they said to us way back in 1950. And it was said by James P. Warburg, representing the Rothschilds and representing the global financial elite, right in our own government, right in Washington, D.C. He said this: we shall have world government, whether or not you like it. The only question is whether world government will be by what? By conquest or consent. Now, I call that treason, but they stood there and they listened to him and they didn't do a darn thing. Let's go on down to the next slide. And now you're going to see that there are scandal after scandal after scandal that are breaking loose in the EU, and it's because they're desperate. They're trying to lock them down. They're trying to basically bring those people to heel, and it's backfiring. So what you see here now is we're going to talk about the farm scandal, and we're going to talk about von der Leyen and what she did. She inflicted on the people with no notification whatsoever that they were going to go green. All those beautiful windmills and all those solar and all those batteries that are nothing but a scam. They don't work. You can't run an economy on that kind of technology. You have to have oil and you have to have nuclear. And so she inflicted this on the nation just like that. And they basically caused farmers, look at the picture down at the bottom, to lose their farms. And then she had the audacity where she was telling them, you are under all these regulations. You can't have dairy that has hormones. You can't use these chemicals. You can't do this. You can't do that. Unbelievable regulations. And then she turned around, and this is where the ire came, where all these tractors, if you saw pictures I've seen, there are tractors for a couple of miles stretching back, protesting, because she went to Brazil and she went to other nations in South America, and she says, you know what, we want to do an agriculture deal with you. We want to buy your cattle, we want to buy your milk, we want to buy your agriculture. And none of those rules that they were imposing on the farmers in Europe applied. All of a sudden they had sold out the farmers, and the farmers were mad, and they were losing their farms by the droves. And I mean, nothing will wake up a group of people more than when you mess with their food supply. So let's go on down and we'll see what all that was about. So we're trying to talk about what Trump has called the green scam. And basically, it's not what you think, folks. Look at those solar panels. Let me tell you what, they have regulations for how efficient a solar panel can be. And if it's anything more than 30% efficient, you can't put it on the market. Isn't that something? You think you might want a solar panel to be as efficient as you could. And so here's the scam right here. Wind is unreliable. Solar is unreliable. They're both the most expensive energy solutions that you could possibly have. And those turbines, they kill birds and they kill fish, and they destroy the navigation system of the birds. And solar requires silver. Remember, we got a silver squeeze going on. Silver's been declared to be what? A strategic national resource that we can't run our factories if we don't have silver, for all that technology that we have now and all the things that are going to be released very, very soon. And basically, they do something else that most people don't know. When they depend so heavily on solar panels and so forth, it means that they are making us dependent on China. Why? Because they need rare earth for those technologies. And so they're just burying these people in a hole. And then they've got going on down, they're dependent on the grid. And what I mean by that, you think those things are sitting out there and they're all run by wind? No, they're connected to the grid. And I'm going to show you in a minute that the time they produce that energy, which fluctuates, that time it gets to you, there's so much of that energy that's lost that it's not even funny. They're simply not viable solutions and are not environmentally friendly. So as we go to this next couple of slides, you're going to see what I mean by that. So here we go. We're digging deeper and deeper, because this is one of those things, this along with immigration, where they control us like you cannot believe. So look up in the upper left in that blue banner, and I'm going to read this to you. The grid that runs everything, where the solar panels and the windmills are connected, the time they take that energy from that solar field and get it to your home, it's lost on an average 66% of its output through transmission loss in the lines. So you start off with something that's 30% efficiency, and then you send it to your home, and of that 30%, it loses 66%. And then you wonder, why is green energy so expensive? I mean, folks, they know all of this. They're using, why is energy so important to them? Because if they can drive up your energy cost, then that means they can put you in a situation where they control all the necessities of life. You don't have any money because you're spending it on energy. So you can't buy your medicine. You can't pay your rent. You can't pay your mortgage, your healthcare prices. I mean, everything. It all starts with energy. He who controls energy controls the money and controls the world. So basically, it's a trap, and I just want people to understand it. Let's go on down to the next slide, and we're going to get into a little more depth on this topic. So this is another one of those traps. I just love it. So we haven't really talked about China much in this last today and yesterday, but China had decided that they were going to be the #1 producers of solar panels and wind and lithium batteries. But you know what? If you go and look at photographs of China, you're not going to see very many solar panels or very many wind turbines, because that's for us suckers over here in the West, because they're building coal plants and they're building nuclear because they know the stuff that they're making is just worthless. But they made a mistake because they have so much invested being the number one producer of those three technologies, and they're falling apart. The scam is being unraveled, and it's going to be another huge economic hit to China. God intends to free the people of China, the people of Iran, the people of Russia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go on down over to the other side over here. And high energy costs drive up the cost of every consumer item that you have ever bought or ever will buy. And now we're talking about Trump's solutions, not the global financial elite solution. So he saw this a long time ago when he got out of the Paris Climate Treaty, because what was it? It was a carbon tax. And it was a carbon tax primarily in the United States of America, because we are the number one target. Collapse America, and you control the entirety of the world. And in focus on wind and solar and battery powered EVs. And so Trump has got 5,915 new patents that are going to be available to us because of the Chevron decision that he got heard by the Supreme Court in his first terms. And so the shelf patents are going to be coming out, and we're going to have virtually free, virtually clean energy that works, that's powerful, that's not connected to the grid, that allows you to basically say that the cost of energy is the principal cost of everything you have ever bought or ever will. Depending on the complexity of the logistics change, energy can cost 40, 50, 60, even 70% of the cost of that product that you buy in the stores. So he's going to bring us energy that works, that's cost effective, and he's in the process, he's going to bring down the cost of every consumer item you will buy as he gets these technologies implemented. And access to all those shelf patents, there's so much things out there you can't even believe. We will have clean, free energy that makes these solutions look like child's play. And technological innovations and replaced obstructionist regulations. So what's he saying is, hey guys, come on over here and build your factories over here. And so the nations are lining up and saying the money's coming back to America. He's got $18 trillion committed. I need to digress for a second. That was promised money. But now, as of a week or so ago, it's money that's real, that's going to come here. Why? Because those nations were going to be a little skeptical about coming based upon promises that were made, based upon executive orders that could be overturned by the next president that came in. So we had something that happened that was very important, that basically is charting the future for America and for a real, true clean energy revolution. He got codified so that basically we now have in law, not with an executive order, everything we need for the governments of the world to understand that they can send their money here. And that is that the tariffs are now legally codified, and he can charge 15% tariff. And what he said he's going to do with that money, get rid of the Internal Revenue Service, run this country based on tariffs and based on a simple sales tax. And with that basically being law, now that $18 trillion is real and tangible, and all he has to do is the next step is just get rid of the regulations that block building those factories quickly and efficiently. And boom, America is in a position to restore the entire world, heal America, provide the technology, be the technological innovator of the world, and then we take the entire world out of the chaos that we're in into a better tomorrow. America was chosen from the foundation of time to be the nation that would do that. And Donald Trump was the president that was chosen to lead us into that future, that destiny. So let's go to the next slide, and we're going to kind of sum up on this particular topic. And I'm going to say, he probably won't believe this, but they lie. The people in the global financial elite are liars, pants on fire. The UN, our mortal enemy, their vision of utopia is a vision of slavery. And basically, they're the Green Reaper coming to basically commit genocide of most of the population of the world. And one of the weapons they use, we're literally, in my opinion, and have been for years in World War III. It's just not a kinetic war. But if you look at what they did with COVID, if you look at what they're doing, poisoning our food and poisoning the air and poisoning the water and creating a water shortage that's going to create a famine, they are actually out there every single solitary day doing what they said they would do. creating millions and billions of people that no longer exist, that they have taken out and have plausible deniability. Oh, it was just a famine. It was just a virus. It was just a whatever. No, it's a war. It's a war on humanity. And God is going to see to it that he's taking their power away. Let's go on down and we're going to talk about another scandal. There's so many scandals going on over in Europe. And this one has to do with Pfizer. And that has to do with what? With that vaccine shot that some of us got. I didn't get it. And there was a deal that happened behind the scenes. And what was it about? Billions of dollars changed hands. And the next thing you know, the people in Europe were getting their vaccines. And the truth kind of squeaks out a little bit. And all of a sudden, von der Leyen, the champion of free speech, had kind of like Hillary, hundreds, thousands of emails all about that deal that was made with Pfizer, but she wouldn't release them. So she wants open, honest communication to protect the people of the world. But really, that's just what? That's just suppression. So they're madder than hornets at her because she inflicted them with that vaccine, and now there's a scandal and she won't release her emails. I mean, come on. Von der Leyen is in trouble, just like you saw when we opened this clip up. And let's go down to the next slide, and you'll see to it that she's in the proverbial pressure cooker. Basically, von der Leyen is being called to step down as one scandal after another is revealed. And look at this, right in their own parliament, some of the biggest nations in the EU stepped up and said, she's got to go. She is harming us in unbelievable ways. So Germany, the biggest economy in Europe, wants her gone. France, the second biggest economy, wants her gone. Italy, the third biggest economy, wants her gone. I think she's in trouble. And then they chimed in with Australia, with Holland, Poland, with the Netherlands, and with Hungary, and that list is growing. So basically, we are going to see the bureaucratic government in Brussels be taken down, and we're going to see that something has happened. We're now going to be getting into an opportunity for the people of Europe where they won't have to fight a multi-year battle like Brexit rather. When England managed to get out from under the EU, there's an open door that's opening that's going to give them an opportunity to do business with a certain country that is the technological and innovative and freedom leader of the world. It's called the United States of America. So the allegations that are coming against her and against the unelected bureaucrats are for various forms of corruption, financial mismanagement, authoritarian overreach, and betrayal of the European values. So there it is. The people have woken up, and we are many, they are few. They're going to take back their government, and it's happening in China, and it's happening in Russia, and it's happening all over the world, and it's happening right here in America. So God said, the truth will set you free, and the truth is coming out. And if you haven't gone and taken a look at those Epstein files, you might find there's some interesting things in there. So let's go on down, and we're going to see now the door that's open for Europe to get out from under the bureaucratic government of the EU. And here it is, this little girl I call her a little girl because I'm a lot older than her, from Italy. They were about to pull something on her you can't believe. Germany, the economic manufacturing superpower of Europe, was in trouble financially because of the energy crunch, and they were going to basically make Italy a vassal state. They were going to say your debt to GDP is 110%, and because of that, you've shown lack of fiscal responsibility, and so we're going to take your assets and we're going to basically put you in receivership, and those assets are going to be managed by Germany. And what Germany was going to do was use that to try to revitalize their manufacturing. Go figure. Can it stink any higher? I mean, anyway, here's what happened. They thought they had her, and she got wind of what they were doing, and she stood up in Parliament, and she just tore the house down, leading to the clip that you saw that we played in the beginning. So here's what happened. She picked up the telephone, and she said, I'd like to talk to Mr. Donald Trump. And he took the call. And the next thing you know, she invited him to come to Italy, and he went. and they negotiated a deal. And he gave a political cover because he knew and she knew that Brussels was going to come after her in an unbelievable way. So the deal, which is somewhat private, but I can only give you the highest level details, but it encompassed energy independence. In other words, hey, we can't get oil. Well, we'll get our oil from the United States of America, and we'll get maybe some trade deals that'll be beneficial for both of us. So if an individual nation in the EU can go out and negotiate independently with the United States of America, they can stay under that umbrella and have whatever benefits there are, if there are any, but they can do just what Canada's doing. They can do just what Italy's doing. They can negotiate independently because the way they wrote, they didn't get the regular constitution. Here's what happened. So there were nations that said, no, we don't buy this. This is a socialist constitution. And they wouldn't sign off. So what they did is a treaty. And they kind of missed a couple of loopholes. And so now these people have individual national sovereignty that allows them to negotiate deals outside of the framework for the trade agreement with the EU. So she's going to be able to negotiate with America for energy independence, meaning they're going to get natural gas, liquefied natural gas from America, and an economic deal that gives them some preferential treatment and military assistance for what? For the immigration crisis, which ironically is the very thing that put Italy in the financial collapse that they were in, because they're the gateway for all those millions of Muslims coming in to Europe, and the EU wasn't helping them at all. The EU was obstructing them. So what did this little lady do? She said, we're done. I'm doing it my way. I'm not asking you for permission. She came and did a deal with Trump, and he's going to assist her. And what they're doing is they're going out beyond the international 10-mile borderline, and she's sending her ships out there, and they're turning back these refugees at sea before they can set foot on land. And so border supporters are going to be so important you can't believe. And there's a movement coming in America and over there that says, hey, our borders were open and millions of people came in who are a liability to us, who can't support themselves, who have health issues, who don't even like us, and we're going to send them away. And so she's going to do the very same thing that ICE is doing here in the United States of America, and they're going to kick the Muslims out and send them back. Now, as that happens, something has to happen. What has to happen? In Europe, in Africa, in Mexico, in South America, we have to stop taking advantage of nations. We have to end the Western hegemony, and we have to give all these nations an opportunity to have a decent standard of living. And then the immigration crisis goes away. It may take a few years, but the world has to stop taking advantage of other nations. We have to learn to be exactly what God intended us to be, stewards for all of mankind. Let's go on down. And for now, we're switching gears and we're talking in that solution period. So let's go to the next slide. And there we go. We're now talking about how we restore our republic, which just so happens to be the title of this book. So we're going into some of the solutions for how we get our government back and our freedom back. Let's go on down to the next slide, and we'll see that the very first thing we have to do is we have to deglobalize and we have to de-dollarize. And when that happens, then there's no nation, not China, not America, that control the world. And you take away the elite's control of money, and they lose their power to cause war and to financially enslave mankind. So we're going to dig down and see, well, how exactly do we do that? So let's go on down and we'll break down, and I pay attention. This is the solution. So people say he who controls money controls the world. Well, it's not quite that simple. You got to control natural resources because you can't manufacture anything if you don't have the silver and you don't have the raw resources. And so then you have to have manufacturing plants. So it's all part of what Trump is doing with the Make America Great program. So he's making us again the manufacturing capital of the world. And when that happens, we basically manufacture those products that we sell that turn into money, that create our GDP, that allow the elite currently to control all those spheres of influence that you see. But when we have gotten rid of the corrupt politicians, because we have come to understand that elections were stolen, not only in the United States, but in 72 countries, and we're going to be able to take out the political operatives that are in our government, that are our enemies, that are treasons. So we're going to get back control of the political arena, the banking arena, the corporations, the military industrial complex that takes us into perpetual wars for profit and enslave us. We're going to get back control of our education system. We spend more money than any nation in the world on education, and we rank number 40. Go figure. And the brainwashing mechanism of the media and the entertainment and the suppression of freedom of religion, where basically they use the 501cs to muzzle the pastors. Back when we got our freedom, pastors stepped away from their pulpits, took off their black robes, and went out and fought with the patriots to save this nation. And basically right now, every one of those things is controlled by the global financial elite. But soon, very soon, they will be controlled by the American people, and by not a democracy, not by communism, but by the world's first republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. That's going down in these next several slides you've seen before, but I just need to keep reiterating, keep reinforcing. So what we have to have is deglobalization and de-dollarization. They must happen if there is to be peace and prosperity. It will allow a stable, commodity-based economic system that is resistant to inflation, deflation, boom-bust cycles, and currency manipulation. And you spell that freedom. That's what we're going to get. Let's go on down, and this is a new system. This is God's economic system. It's not communism. It's not capitalism. It's not crony capitalism. It's God's economic system. It's a system based on abundance, a system based on sharing. It's a system creating unity, because God knows a nation divided cannot stand. So what we're going to hear is not America, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, but one world standing together. And here's how we accomplish it. The basis of God's economic system is these few simple points right here: a commodity-based economy, shared resources, technology, meaning we don't hoard. We share it with all the other nations of the world so we can all have a decent standard of living. Resource conservation. So they say, we've got to kill you because you're consuming too many of our valuable resources. Well, let's go on down to the next bullet point: product longevity and reusability. If we'd stop making things that were supposed to wear out in 6 months, then we could conserve resources, because we have the ability to make products that will last hundreds of years. And therefore, we will stop wasting the resources, the valuable resources of the world. Now, let's go on down. Money as a tool, not as a weapon. So right now we're in a financial debt system, but when we're in a commodity-backed system that can't be manipulated, then money can be used to build infrastructure and to do things to basically help mankind basically have a better standard of living all over the world. And power in the hands of who? Of a population committed to what? Committed to creating fairness and equality around the world. God's kingdom on earth, where we all become stewards, where we all understand that what the Bible said is important. The number one thing in the Bible is to love thy Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul. And the next is unto it to love what? To love your brother as yourself. And that's what we're all about. That's what we're ushering in here. We're ushering in an economy led by the United States of America, economy based on stewardship. And let's go on down, and we're getting into another side that talks about something from the Bible. And the Bible says you have to take up the enemy by the root. And that's where we have to get control of the natural resources, of the manufacturing, of the money, and all the 8 spheres of influence, and expose the politicians, expose the election fraud, expose the corrupt banks and the corrupt corporations and the military industrial complex. Take them all out. Give control back to the people of the United States and the people of the world over their own governments, over sovereign governments that are doing things to help the people, not to enslave them. So we got to tear some concrete up, folks. But it's coming, and it's going to be a glorious day when it happens. Let's go on down, and they give us 1,000-page documents for bills. And it's all so simple. Look at this slide. This isn't complicated. This is the restoring the public. And what do we have to do? We must control the banking system. So that means we have to get out of the fiat banking system and go to what? The commodity-backed system we talked about. And we have to have international corporations, including Wall Street. We have to have control of them. And we have to have politicians, judges, and all 3 branches of government back under our control, and all the spheres of influence, those 8 spheres of influence under our control, and all 3-letter agencies, the CIA, the FBI, etc., under the control of the people, operating for the benefit of mankind, for the benefit of the public, not for the benefit of an elite global conspiracy that is demonic in every way, shape, and form and wants to enslave us. And the UN and all the global governance organizations under it, like the World Trade Organization, the World Health Organization, NATO, etc., they all have to go away. And Donald Trump has as much said so. And then down below, which is just something for you to remember, this relates back to the immigration issue. The Council on Foreign Relations, which we think is our friend and is really our mortal enemy, says relations. As America is, I'm going to start this over. The Council on Foreign Relations is the American branch of society which originated in England, and that's where the beast system originated, and believes national borders should be obliterated and a one world rule established. And that was by none other than Carol Quigley, a CFR member who happened to be the mentor of one of our presidents, and that would be Billy Boy Clinton. So let's go on down, and we're going to expose some more truths. And this is right out of your Bible, and it's talking about Mystery Babylon, the great whore. And look at that picture over to the left. That is taken at the Vatican. And if those don't look like demons, I don't know what does. So basically, the history that I divulge in this book here is that basically Christ was killed as a political execution because he stood to threaten Rome, and he stood to threaten the Sadducees and the Pharisees of the day. And so he was killed, and they took over his throne, and they became the global financial elite that ruled the world. And that is all administered from Europe, from Brussels. That is the seat of power, along with being run from the Vatican, from the City of London, and from Washington, D.C. That's where the center of power is that has created the corporation that enslaves mankind. You need to understand who the enemy is and where he is, because otherwise, how are we going to get rid of him? Let's go on down to the next slide, and we're going to break this down a little bit more. It's not complicated. So a global central banking system's got to go. The UN and their government organizations, governance organizations, got to go. The corporations, the Vatican City, the City of London, the District of Columbia, got to go. Corrupt politicians, CEOs, and all those who have sold out to the globalists, got to go. The Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, et cetera, got to go. We have to reestablish everything, and it has to be based on an informed public willing to vote their conscience and vote for things that are the best interest of the mass of the population, and not based on vested self-interest as to who will give you the most money. It was Franklin who said, the minute that those least willing or least able to work find out that they can get money from the public coffers, it's just a matter of time until the nation collapses from within under a mountain of debt. And that's exactly where we're at. We're almost done. Let's go to the next slide. And we're looking at what God's new system is going to look like. God's reset. It's basically the transfer of wealth from the wicked to the righteous. People will walk in truth, and we will have peace and unity, and we'll have our eyes wide open. The truth will set us free. And when that happens, millions, if not billions of people around the world are going to stand up, and those governments that are teetering are going to fall. The people in China and Russia and Iran are now standing up, and now we need the people of America to stand up. And let's go to this last slide. And that's where next week you'll see, instead of coming soon, you'll see a date, and it will probably be sometime in the early part of March. I have worked so long and so hard to get this book out, and it couldn't be at a better time. Everything that can shake is being shaken right now. And this book tells you all the problems that we're facing and all the simple solutions that we can implement in order to get our nation back, in order to have peace and prosperity, not just for this nation, but for all the nations of the world. So I ask one thing, help me. If you follow me, buy this book as soon as I put it out, because what I need to do is I need to get in the pole position, just like in a horse race on Amazon. I need to be the #1 best-selling book in my category for the first month, because I'll then carry that monocle all along, and it will help me sell books for a long time to come. So if you plan on buying a book, as soon as I make the announcement, buy it within 30 days. And please, if you find that the things that I'm telling you to be helpful, please subscribe, and please we need to wake up as many people as we can. The more people that are woke, the less likely we're going to have civil war in this nation. So please subscribe and please share the things that I do with as many people as you can. God told me that when the time came, my platform would rise all out of like nothing. And I'm getting on more and more bigger and bigger shows, but I need your help every single solitary day. If you follow me, if you like what I do, share it with all your friends. So with that, I'll be back on Friday. We'll do a wrap up. It'll be the same topic, but just a more high level than what we talked about right now. So thank you, be blessed, and we will see you on Friday.